Welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Community Call. We're going to have a really nice community call as a monthly summary today with a special topic. So my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a program manager from the OneDrive SharePoint platform team, and our team is responsible on the development experience. But typically in these monthly community calls, it's not necessarily all about development. We might touch development topics, but it's really around more and more around the features and capabilities as well. So we're kind of transforming the monthly community calls away from deep dive development extensibility to more on understanding what's possible. Like today, we're kind of concentrate today on the Microsoft Search UX. Now, quick recap on our community. We have multiple different community calls. We have SharePoint Framework community call. We have an M365 General Dev Special Interest Group community calls as well. And we have monthly community calls for SharePoint. On top of this, we have plenty of other calls as well. And we'll come to those slightly later, actually, on the slides as well. But the whole point of having this many calls means that you can target you based on your interest, those calls which are interesting for you. And then at the same time, there's a lot of content available which you can access from the recordings. So it doesn't mean that you need to join all of these calls. You can always have a look on the recording afterwards as well. So that's one way of handling the situation. Now, quick recap on the assets. What we have multiple different YouTube channels. We have open source, github.com, SharePoint, BMP, and Office Dev, sample galleries, and plenty of them, and open source. If you're wondering on all of these assets which are available, where do I go to get access on everything? It's AKMS M365 BMP. That site has access on all of the different locations and all of the different addresses. Now, quick recap on the SharePoint roadmap, because these questions came up during the chat. So let's talk about this one briefly. So right now, what we're working on is a SharePoint Framework 1.11, which will be what's the primary reason why we're working on it is to make sure that the SharePoint Framework support for App Source and Office Store is in a optimal situation. So we're making small adjustments related on metadata, auto generation, and making sure that all of that is working. We also are enabling task modules to be actually exposed as a SharePoint Framework solution. So that's one of the options here as well. In general, we're also working on improved Microsoft Graph APIs. So the taxonomy and content type Graph APIs, REST APIs, Graph APIs, those are coming up within the June as well. So they plan to go to the GA of V1 in the June timeframe. That was the original time discussion back in May. There might be some delays on that one, but it's happening relatively soon as well. The CSM.NET standard, we talked about that one before the call starts as well. But basically, the idea is to get it out during this month. So we are in the final leg of testing. We validated that as well. We actually demonstrated that 2 weeks ago by Bert in M365 General Special Interest Group call as well. So it is already working. We're just doing final optimizations and hopefully get it out by end of this month. And that's really the objective. There's also going to be more branding settings in portals. So improved headers, footers, all of those settings from a branding perspective. And in general, there's a better improvements on the Microsoft Teams side. So for Microsoft Teams, it's absolutely a focus area for us as well in the SharePoint and OneDrive platform team, or well, in SharePoint and OneDrive in general. So Teams integration improvements, content security policy in the pipeline, faster in the dev loop of planning. We've been trying to get to there for quite a long time, not yet, and more extensions in the SharePoint portals. We talked about those quite a few times already, but no timelines for those at this point. Now, quick pointers from a user voice perspective, which is really cool. So we have 3 of the top 10 items are going to be closed pretty soon. So the support for .NET Core, actually it's support for .NET Standard, which will enable CSM to be used in .NET Core, is coming relatively soon as well. So that's really, really cool. The add for managed metadata terms to our operations in REST API, it's going to be Graph APIs, and that's going to help us on you to use these operations more efficiently. And then the third one is to add support for SharePoint Framework solution packages and App Store Store. So that's planned to happen in a mid-July timeframe. So all of these 3 are getting closed quite soon. And for the other ones, please keep on voting. Please keep on influencing. Keep on giving your feedback for us. So we need to understand what are the functionalities which are important for you. Now, related on the community work and related on the open source initiatives and work what we're doing here, please, if you don't feel comfortable and don't feel bad about it, all of this GitHub and contributing in open source, editing documents or submitting changes on the GitHub document, official docs, might be confusing and might be scary. And that's why we have this AKMS Sharing is Caring initiative driven by or led by David Warner and then Hugo Bernier. And they actually have, not one-to-one, but live sessions, instructor-led sessions where they help you to actually get started on contributing in open source, understanding what is a GitHub, and understanding how to contribute on the dev docs or the documentation modifications in general, not just dev docs in general, because that the system is exactly the same across Microsoft. So the next time there's sessions is June 18th, 19th, and 22nd. And if you go to AKMS Sharing is Caring, you can actually register to those sessions using the registration form available from that page. So please reach out if you need any help on that. Now, one of the things what I wanted to also promote is our PMP Weekly. We had released the latest PMP Weekly today, where we talk about the latest news from Microsoft 365 level, not just the dev stuff, but also in other areas as well. And then typically we have some sort of a topic or visitors and MVPs, community members in those calls. Today we released a PMP Weekly episode 86, where we have, together with me and Waldek, we had David Warner and then Paolo Pialorsi as the visitors, because we wanted to address a common question what people keep on asking is that, well, how do you work so much, or how do you make that many things happening, and what is the secret of these people being active in the community? What are they gaining out of being active on the community? And obviously, we could have had quite a few others active MVPs in this channel as well, but David and Paolo are sharing their perspective on this thinking as well. So why are they sharing, and what are they gaining out of doing that as well? Now, the June version of the community update went live 30 minutes ago or 60 minutes ago at the AKMS M365 PMP, or actually in the blog posts. And in there, we kind of call out all of the contributors, we call out all of the companies who have helped us. And I just realized that there's one logo missing from that slide, which is updated on the upcoming slide. So basically, a lot of people, a lot of companies, again, helping us on a monthly basis. So thank you for being part of this journey and helping others in the community to succeed as well. We know that people are looking into your companies also because your company allows your employees to contribute and being active in the open source side. So that's a really good benefit it's a win-win for everybody when we do this together. From a individual user perspective, and these are all of the users who contributed in our open source initiatives and projects within the last month, so within a May timeframe. And I needed to reduce the font size again, and I needed to really make it full size on the slide. So the number of people contributing is all the time growing. So thank you for being here and being active, and thank you for helping others in the community, because that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that others can benefit from our knowledge, and then they can help us when we have hard time or trying to figure out how to make X and Y and Z happen. And that's how it comes to be a win-win, and everybody wins from the thinking. From the company perspective, like mentioned, there's one new company there, which is BIS Portals 365 with the logo in here. If you are one of the contributors and your company is not here, we need to have your logo shared with us with the permissions of using that logo. So we are not allowed to actually use your company logo unless there's an explicit email or a message where you explicitly give us the permissions to do that. And that's a kind of a legal requirement on here. And that's why we have a subset of all of the companies which are mentioned in the user side on the other side as well. Now, from Microsoft side, plenty of people as well. And the one thing what I wanted to call out here, even Dan Holm, who's our director of marketing, one of the directors in our marketing side, was contributing in the documentation updates pretty recently. So thank you. But thank you everybody from Microsoft side being active on this side as well. Now, I think it is time, and we're not too much badly behind of the schedule because I was rushing, and I do apologize on that one. But I wanted to make sure that we have time for the actual topic of the day, which is the Microsoft Search UX customization, so search box verticals and refiners. I think it's Jyoti who's going to start, unless I'm completely mistaken. Jyoti, take it away.
Thank you. So hi everyone, really great to be talking to you guys. So today the plan was to talk through the Microsoft Search user experience. We are essentially talking about the customization that we are doing for Microsoft Search result page. Now when I talk about Microsoft Search result page, I'm talking about the search result page that you generally see when you're in SharePoint Home or Office.com. You go to the search box, hit a query, and then you have a search result page load up. Now again, even here there are a lot of components which are involved. This particular part is focused on two aspects. One is verticals, which you see highlighted on top over here, which is essentially a way to define the types of results which are shown in the search result page. And then you have your filters or refiners, how they're generally known as from the classic search world. And this helps users, to define a way for users to further narrow down results on certain properties. So these are the two key focus for the talk as of now. And here, let me actually talk about the key customization features that we're working on. So these are, the asks that we've heard from customers, especially for those who want to move from, classic search or who have been used to the features which were available there. So two key things that we are actually working on is firstly allowing edit of your existing out-of-box verticals which are present. So the verticals like all, files, people, sites, etc., being able to do some kind of modifications over there. And then the second thing that we are working on and we are planning to enable is allowing adding of new custom verticals. Now, some of you or many of you may already know that this is in part already available in preview as a part of the Microsoft Graph connectors program, where you can actually add custom verticals. But we are taking the next step over here by having this available for SharePoint content as well. And then the next big thing that we are doing is, custom filters. Now, you may already notice, and I'll do a deep dive into this part, that the filter design itself has actually changed. We are moving from the right-hand side pane to actually top of the page. And we're also doing work to have the ability to add custom filters. So without any further ado, let's actually go into the experience. So let me show you the experience that we're planning, and that will give you a much better and good idea about the kind of changes which are there. So in this case, so this is going to be an experience walkthrough where I'll be talking about the changes that we're doing. So imagine that you are a user who is on SharePoint Home and who starts off with writing a query on your search box, and you're looking for something like a Contoso field research spec. You hit enter. As soon as you hit enter, now this is sort of the experience that you will see. Now, immediately off the bat, you might notice that there are a couple of changes right here on the top. So let's sort of zoom into this and see. So there are two aspects. One is the verticals on top, and the second one is filters, which have actually changed. So let's further actually look into what the changes are. So first, I'll be focusing on the top part, which is the verticals. Now, the kind of features that we're enabling is, firstly, you may notice here that you don't actually see the sites vertical. So this is one feedback that we've heard, that, in some cases, there are certain verticals which are perhaps maybe not needed for your organization, or for a specific maybe site as well. So in that case, we're allowing the capability to disable some of the existing verticals. The other thing that you might notice over here is this vertical called as SharePoint News, which is generally actually the news vertical. So there is also the capability to rename the news, to rename some of these existing verticals to fit the need of your organization. Other than that, you might also notice that there are two other verticals over here, which are like research and outreach. And these are additional custom verticals which have actually now been added based on your requirements. Moving from top one level down, you see that there are filters. So file type and like date is something which is already there, but the design has changed now when it is moved to top of the page. But then apart from this, you also have the capability of adding additional custom filters like department and author. And I'll go through the kind of experience which is present on this in a bit. So this is the focus. So let's see that apart from this, verticals that have been edited, you also have this research custom vertical which is available. So going back to our user scenario, in case if the user is actually looking, in this case, you see the user is looking for a research related spec, and you do have a research related custom vertical present over here. So one quick thing that the user will now be able to do is go to this particular custom vertical tab and actually see the relevant narrowed down results. Now, this is one great way of finding information. Other than that, so imagine if the custom vertical is not what you're going for, then we go back to our all tab, and then we start now looking at these filters which have been added. Now, in these filters, let's look into the department filter, let's say. So here we are adding the capability of having filters. So you have different kind of controls like, single select, multi-select, which will be available. These are essentially filters which are working off of definable managed properties as of now. So the user will have the capability of, selecting some of these filters, clicking on apply, and your page results, your results will refresh. The values which have been chosen will be shown here as pills, and you'll have the options of deselecting them right from here or clearing them all if that's what is needed. And you obviously also have the capability of adding of using other filters along with department as well. So in this case, if it's author, you can select the other authors that you're looking for, click on apply, and then further narrow down your results. So this is a great way of actually finding the results that you're looking for. Now, moving on, just to go back this, so the earlier one which you saw was on the existing all vertical where you're able to add custom filters, but this particular capability is also available for other, custom filters like research. So now I want to actually walk you through the admin aspect of how this is set up as well to sort of, go over the context of how this can be done from the administration perspective. Okay, so this is what I'm showing to you right now is on the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, which is essentially at the setting which is happening at an organization level for things like your SharePoint Home, Office.com, etc. The experience, you'll have like a similar kind of experience even at a site collection level, which is applicable for each and every site. So immediately first you will notice that within the Microsoft Search administration portal itself, you have a customization tab where you can actually go and see verticals. So now you'll be able to see all your existing verticals also which are present, like all, files, people, news, etc. And here the capabilities of, let's say, disabling vertical will be present. So I'm going to take the example of this research vertical which we just saw. Now in this case, the vertical is already created, and what we're going to do is add a filter to it. So once you click on the research vertical over here, on the right hand side you see all the information which is actually used to create this vertical, and similar to this you'll have the similar information present for existing verticals as well. So you can edit the name, you can change the the query which has been added, or you can go ahead and add a new filter. So once you click on filters, you're taken to a wizard kind of a view where you have a capability of adding a filter. So once you click on add a filter, you will be shown a list of refinable managed properties from which you can select your properties. So in this case, we want to create an author filter. So we'll select the author property over here and move on to the next step. And then within this step, then you have the options of viewing some of the information about this. So in this case, it's a string type filter, and apart from that, you have the ability to actually select the type of interface that you want. As of now, today, we are first starting out with a list of preset sort of interfaces where the options will be something like a single select or a multi-select, and you won't have the ability to design like completely customized the way you want it. That's how we are sort of starting off. So you select this type of information, you click on done, and then your filter is added over here, and then the rest of the steps for actually just saving the vertical is present. And so when you go back, when you move on to the next step, And yeah, here you go. So then on your research vertical, a filter author filter will be added. This is from experience walkthrough perspective what I wanted to show. So just to summarize, we are so these are all the features that we're working on. As a next step, we are planning for a private preview for all of these features in the coming quarter. So you have things like ability to have custom filters on existing verticals, on custom verticals for SharePoint, editing existing verticals, or adding custom verticals for SharePoint content. All of these experiences that I just spoke about, this will be a part of the private preview. They will be available on both tenant and site scope. There are also other things that we're continuing to work on, which is at a high level, result type support for SharePoint content and custom verticals so that you can design your own layout, and also custom filter support for connector content. So these will also be coming up soon. And lastly, the main call of action that I have from this audience is to actually sign up for the private preview. So we are opening up the registrations for the private preview as well. So we have the link over here. I'll paste the link in the chat as well. What we would love to have is folks sign up for the private preview so that we can actually take this to you, see how well it works for your scenarios, and get good feedback from all of you. So yeah, this was the content from my end.
Excellent. Thank you, Jyoti. We will add the link on the notes and in the recording, in the YouTube video. If you're watching this on YouTube tomorrow or later after this recording, there will be a reference back on the blog post where all of these links are, so you can actually get access on that. Get Kerem to say hi.
I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Excellent.
Amazing.
And now we're getting you, Kerem, on your extensibility story.
I wanted to talk to you briefly about the search box changes that are coming as part of Microsoft Search in OneDrive and SharePoint. My name is Kerem Yuceturk. I'm a program manager with the OneDrive and SharePoint team, and I look after mostly the integration with Microsoft Search. And here are some of the things that you can look forward to. Over the next quarter, we are hoping to introduce a scoping control into the search box. And this will help you see the context of where you're going to be searching easier, and then switch this context as necessary if needed. So this will be available in OneDrive for Business. So it will show up like this, as you see on the left, where you'll be able to kind of scope searches to current folder or only My Drive. Or it can be like the all files in the organization. And then there's the whole organization affordance, which lets you jump out into the Enterprise Search Center in the SharePoint start page to kind of search across all types of files, not just files, but also list items, pages, sites, etc., whatever occurs in the Enterprise Search Center. And of course, the connector information that is also becoming added as custom verticals as well. So that's kind of giving users a better sense of where they're searching. So this is a big change for OneDrive for Business, because today there's only one way to search in OneDrive for Business, and that's like a hybrid model of the files I recently worked on or files shared with me, plus the things in my OneDrive for Business. And this will kind of provide a little more clarity, hopefully, for those different scopes and provide the folder scoping, which is kind of important. The other thing we're excited about for OneDrive for Business is the shared libraries that appear in OneDrive for Business. You couldn't search in those. And with this affordance, you'll also be able to use the current folder affordance to go and search for things in those areas. And the scoping control is also coming to the search boxes in SharePoint. So if you're in a library or if you're in the site, you'll be able to scope things to the current site, to all sites in the hub if a site is connected or associated with a hub. And again, the same whole organization concept is here, where you'll be able to jump to the same place. So it's kind of this universality of Microsoft Search. Wherever you start from, there's a contextual thing, and then there's the ability to jump to the whole organization as needed. And similarly, current folder, current library will work in a library or a list. And then you'll be able to jump to the site, the hub, and the whole organization, again, using the scoping control there. So some things to call out. This kind of works for scoping wider and not narrower or lower. So you can go from site to hub to whole organization, but you can't, once you're in the hub, you can't really drill down into a site because you don't have a way of selecting that site. Hopefully that's obvious. We have a setting called search scope, which I will remind everybody about in 2 slides over, that allows you to say, hey, I want my site to start searching at the hub level or at the whole organization level. And if any of these settings are set, then you'll see only those options here. So if you set it to hub, for example, for a site that is associated with the hub, you'll only see the all sites in hub and whole organization scopes. You won't see the current site scope. And then if you set it to whole organization, again, whole organization will be the scope, and you won't see the scoping control since you can't change it further down. And then the suggestions that we show will match the scope selected. So if you're switching over to current folder, for example, in a library or in your OneDrive, you'll see suggestions from that scope. If you're switching to hub or whole organization, you'll get the suggestions for that selection. So it will match the suggestions that appear under the search box will match those things. And there's a subtle line here that you may notice. So this is kind of like, hey, you're jumping out into another experience indicator for the scoping control. So if you're in OneDrive for Business and you select whole organization and you submit a search, it'll open a new tab, take you to SharePoint start page so that you can get to that enterprise search experience. Similarly, if you're in a folder in a library in SharePoint sites, and then you switch to current site or all sites, we'll open a new tab and go to the site search experience or the hub search experience and leave the library experience behind. So that's kind of a subtle indicator that you'll switch to a new tab for these scopes here. And if you set a custom results page for the new search box, that will continue to work. So we will always take you to the custom results page, but you'll have to punch in the scope accordingly and then switch that up if you need to. All right, moving on. The other feature I wanted to tell you about is Microsoft Search for classic sites. So this was expected in this quarter that we're in, but we're in June, and you may have been suspicious that you haven't heard that this was coming already. We are having a little delay there with the rollout of the Microsoft search box, but we are now testing this inside Microsoft. So I expect this to roll out to targeted release in the 3rd quarter of the year, and then to broader production customers as well. So the concept here is relatively simple, but it's a little difficult to pull off. But I'll try to explain it, and then I'll go into the next slide and go through some of the details of how you can kind of manage this experience. So the idea here is that, hey, if you have classic sites that are not customized, there's no reason they shouldn't be using Microsoft Search. We are already indexing all the content in your classic sites in Microsoft Search. And ideally, you'll be able to use the Microsoft Search experience, which offers a little better relevance and ranking experience, and is consistent with the modern experiences that you're getting on your classic sites too. So what we're doing to this end is, if you have a classic team site with publishing not turned on at the site level and no discernible custom master page, in those cases, we will by default try to remove the search box that's built into the classic master page and then add the Microsoft search box to the top of the page. And as your users are using this, it will kind of work the same way as the search box that you'd find in a modern site, and it will take you to the modern Microsoft search results, go up to that site and show you the results from there. Now, of course, you may have multiple reasons why you wouldn't want that. For example, if you've customized your search experience and you've added experiences like custom display templates, etc., and you don't want to switch your experience, you'll be able to opt out of that experience so that classic pages are not touched. or of course using the concepts that Jyoti presented earlier. You would be able to also implement some of those customizations in modern and start using those as well. So there's a bit of a optionality there. We are not going to try to automatically upgrade sites that have publishing turned on at the site level or have a custom master page with a different name than Seattle.master or a Oslo.master. And we will not attempt to upgrade those, since they may have other customizations in there that we don't want to break with the custom master pages. In those cases, everything will continue to work, but you'll be able to opt in if you still want the Microsoft Search experience there, using our search box in navbar setting. So how would that work? Let me quickly go over that, and then I'll try to take any questions if we get time, or I can follow up with questions later. So as you know, we have two web and site collection level settings that is available now, actually. So this is available for use, that you can set these settings today. The first one is the search scope, web.search scope setting. This is also available through several helpers in the PnP PowerShell. But this is the one that allows you to set the default scope to be at the site level, at the hub level, or the whole organization level for a given SharePoint site. So this continues to work. There isn't much change here. It kind of has a bearing on the scoping control that we just covered earlier. The second one has more bearing on the upgrade behavior that we're going to get for classic pages. And that's the web.searchbox in navbar, as well as the sites.searchbox in navbar. So this is the site collection setting, and this is the site setting, the web SP web setting. And this will override the broader thing. If this is set to default, or if this is set to default, you can override it using the site collection level. But if the site has set something, one of these settings, and the web can override that by setting one of these settings explicitly as well. So it kind of gives you a bit of flexibility in how to combine those two, the site collection level and the site level. So 0 is the default setting, and this is the behavior that I was telling you about, where we will try to upgrade the team sites that don't have the publishing feature turned on or don't use a custom master page. And the search box will just move to the top, will be removed from the page, and then you're starting to use the setting there. And any sites that have the site publishing feature turned on or have a custom master page, they do not see any change, basically. Option number 1 is all pages, including classic pages. And this is basically an opt-in, if you will, for those sites that didn't get to upgrade. And this will help you to move to that model of having all pages always try to use the search box in the navbar, even if they're classic and even if some of these features are turned on. And it will kind of be an opt-in into the modern experience for those cases. The number 2 option is an opt-out. So if you're in the if you're in the bucket where you're in a team site, you're using classic pages, but you're not using the publishing feature at the site level, and you don't have a custom master page, and you want to make sure that you continue to use the classic experience, this is your opt-out. You set this for your web or your site collection, and none of those sites with this set, or the site collection with this set, will be upgraded to Microsoft Search. So this is kind of an opt-out model. And then last but not least, I know some of us and some customers want to make sure that there is no search box, and they want to provide their own search box, or they want to disable search altogether for a given site or site collection. And this last setting is to hide the search box that we provide in the Suite navigation bar. And when you set this, then we will not emit the search box into the page, and you'll be free to do whatever you want using SharePoint Framework extensions or any other mechanism that you may be using. Note that this will only affect modern pages. Classic pages, because you already have a way to modify the master page, we're not going to touch those and try to do anything there. So this is kind of a hide the search box in modern pages, and I'll take care of the classic pages to do as I see fit type of situation. All right, so that's kind of what I wanted to cover. And I think we have 0 time for questions, but
pretty much. The only question, Kerem, was that the kind of a thing which came from Frank Cornu and a few others is the extensibility story.
Yes.
Are the new controls, are they web parts, or are they something which can be connected to other web parts as well? If Jyoti or somebody can actually answer on that. So are they, if they're web parts, then they have web part connections, and then people can extend the experience through that model.
Do you mean in the refiners and
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Jyoti, as far as I know, feel free to jump in, but they are not web parts, right? This is basically a configuration that the search page reads, and it is kind of a component that Microsoft runs. So it's not, they're not individual web parts on that page. It's kind of a monolithic search results page that has those components on it and reads a configuration from the admin experience.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so yeah, and Jyoti answered that that there's no customization at that point for now, but it might be a good, let's say, a suggestion to have an extensibility point in those things, so you can then potentially add new web parts on a page, and so you wouldn't actually have to override what we have, and out of the box you just extend what we have out of the box. But again, that's coming later. So.
Yeah, and the option, of course, with the custom results pages, of course, is still there and available to make full use of the SharePoint canvas, to use modern web parts, including, of course, the PnP search web parts that this audience is very familiar with.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Kerem. Thank you, Jyoti. We are over time already, so unfortunately no Q&A within this one. But just to recap, the recording will be available in 24 hours in our Microsoft 365 SharePoint Community YouTube channel. The next M365 channel dev call is on this Thursday. We're going to talk about CSAM.NET Standard, PnP PowerShell Core, and then some other topics as well. The agenda will be shared tomorrow. And next SharePoint Framework call is a week from now, and then next monthly community call is July 14th. We already have a topic suggestion on that one in general. In general, we know that we have a lot of community calls. Reach out or join on those, which are the most interesting ones. But that's it from our side. So thank you very much, and have a great Tuesday. We'll try to follow up on all of the questions in the chat slightly later on as well, if there's anything which we didn't answer. And thank you for the presenters, and thank you for all of the feedback from everybody who is joining the call as well. Thank you. Bye-bye. We'll be back.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.